What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of Dark Frequencies. This is episode number 9. Yes, we are back. Dark Frequencies is alive and well. It's been a long time. It's really been a real long time. And some people probably thought Dark Frequencies was dead. But you know what? With all the UFO drama that is going on in mainstream media, this is incredible. So we had to return, and Skiva is joining me live. Skiva, what is going on? How's it going on this Sunday?
It's going pretty good, man. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be chilling with you again, to see all these awesome people in chat. I'm stoked to get into some cool alien stuff.
Yeah, not necessarily aliens, brah. No, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what is actually going on here. But you know what?
Some UAP stuff.
Yeah, we're going to cover this from a lot of different angles. And one thing I wanted to mention really quick, too, is some people are probably wondering, wait, where's Roots? Like, what happened to Roots? This was a 3-man deal. Well, we did want to have Roots on today, but virtual strangers, he's got a conflict of interest. Should have canceled virtual strangers, brah. But no, they're doing virtual strangers. I believe they start in probably like a half an hour or something like that. And so the thing is, I have a window of time to be able to do things, and there's a million shows going on. Everybody's got a freaking show. Everybody, like my grandma's probably on YouTube right now. So everybody has a show. We're all doing shows, but this was the time, this was the window that we had, so here we are. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into episode 9, Disclosure in Progress. So this is an incredibly exciting topic for everybody really out there on planet Earth, because this is one of the more interesting questions that we have as humans on this planet. Are we alone? We've always had this question, and it's not like we're necessarily going to get an answer on this, but there's something that is happening. This is unprecedented. I've been a UFO nut job, certified UFO nut job, for the vast majority of my life. As a little kid, I would see little things about UFOs, and I was always kind of fascinated by it. But it wasn't really until I was like in my late teens and in my 20s when I really got deep into it. And back in the 1990s, there was a lot of UFO stuff that was going on in the 1990s. There was a lot of TV shows, like not unsolved mysteries, but like specific like UFO shows, and there was like the alien autopsy, and there was the Bob Lazar thing happened. Like all these things were happening, and I got so interested and so captivated by this entire UFO phenomenon. But here was the rub. The rub is, as much as I got interested in it, and I was following this and I was following that, the thing is, you would always hear somebody say, disclosure's going to happen later this year. Bill Clinton is running for president. Seriously, this actually happened. Bill Clinton is running for president. He's going to release all the UFO information. Someone said that before Bill Clinton was president. I guarantee you somebody said that. And so in the world of UFO nut jobs, disclosure was always a month away. It was always next summer. It was always this next election is when they're going to disclose it. There's a deadline. The aliens are going to show up on a certain day. There's a deadline. There was always these things happening. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. I can't wait for next summer. Disclosure's happening. And then every time you would get there, it never happened. It never happened. It was always like those people that say the end of the world is going to happen on this day. And then you get there, it didn't happen. And then, oh no, the end of the world is now next month. Skiva, have you noticed a similar thing? How long have you been into UFOs? And have you noticed that this has always been bubbling in the background, but we've always been disappointed?
Yeah, I've always thought the whole UFO thing was super fun, right? I don't know a whole lot of kids that back then that didn't think it was awesome. You're right, though. It's always been a month away. It's always been just around the corner. And I was thinking about that last night. They keep hyping this up, and they're talking about it, and reports are coming out, and I'm like, oh, please actually make good on this. There's been also some talk that these reports even might be delayed. So I know there's a lot of angles we're gonna hit this on. So I don't want to go too far into this, but yeah, very much excited for this whole thing.
It's been going on for a long time, and the thing is like I got so sick of it after, like, because I was really into the subject, and eventually, it's the boy who cries wolf, right? If you cry wolf too many times, everybody's like, nah, I've heard this line before. We know what you're doing here. No, I'm not doing this anymore. And so basically, for like 20 years, literally for 20, maybe even more years, I didn't give a damn about UFOs. Like, I was super into UFOs in the 90s, but there was a certain point in time where I was like, fuck it. This shit isn't going to happen. It's all a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to die. This is never going to be revealed. So F it. I don't care about it anymore. I had no interest whatsoever in UFOs for like 20 something years. And then like a couple of years ago, when it was basically that first story that was in the New York Times, I believe, where this whole thing kind of started up, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, this is starting to get kind of interesting. But like, even when it first started, I was like, nah, I've been through this before. This is more fake bullshit. I'm not going to get caught up in it. But then, after more videos came out, and after the Pentagon is like, no, this shit is real. This is a real video. This is a real object. So then it's like, okay, maybe something is going on. So that's what we're here to discuss today. Disclosure in progress. Is disclosure actually happening right here and now? Is it unraveling right before our eyes? Is this one of the more interesting times of humanity? And how, this is almost a sideshow, right? How unlikely is it that you would be born and living in the age of virtual reality and augmented reality, in the age of artificial intelligence, in the age of possibly a singularity, in the age of like UFOs being revealed? Like, dude, like that, but that's a whole nother topic, but it is kind of crazy that all these things are going on, right? So we're going to start it off though with this question, is disclosure actually happening? And so I'm going to kick it over to Skeevan. I want to ask you, man, so we got this June report that is supposed to happen possibly as early as June 1st, but it might be delayed until later June, or sometimes this stuff gets delayed. Marco Rubio actually talked about it, that, these things don't usually come in on time. So, June might come and go and we still might not have this report. But do you believe that there's a possibility of a smoking gun actually being revealed to the American public in June? Is this where the unveiling happens?
So it's possible, but I think what they are really trying to say here is that they are going to present their report to the other government entities in June, right? I don't know that they're necessarily going to be like, okay, the report's ready. Here you go, world. This is what's happening. I feel like they're going to like look at it, assess it, and be like, okay, are we going to freak everyone out? Is this what people are expecting? Like, and then they might decide to botch the whole thing, right? Or just be like, make a whole fake thing. There's so many different things they could do. This doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get all the information we've ever wanted. And I hope I hope we do. I hope we get everything that we want and more, because it would be a very interesting time to be alive if they were like, all right, check it out. We got a UFO here in old Area 51. We got these videos, and we have all of this information, and we got some of the technology that crashed, and blah 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 blah. That would be the ultimate in nerd satisfaction, if you will. So fingers crossed, man, because I'm
Yeah,
rooting for.
don't you think though, like if you like, I know myself personally, like always being interested in this topic, I've imagined, how would this actually happen? Like if the government was to say yes, UFOs are real, aliens are real, how would this act? And the whole alien thing, back off on that. Don't worry about that. We're going to get into that. This doesn't have to be aliens. We understand that, okay? So whenever I mention the word aliens, like I hope that doesn't trigger you, because this might not be aliens. In fact, I'll make several arguments where this could have absolutely nothing to do with aliens. But basically what I'm saying here is like when you kind of think about how disclosure would happen, the way I've always imagined it, it's like special report, breaking news report, President Obama is speaking before the or whatever, whoever the president is at the time, right? There would be this like breaking news report, and then the president would, get up there to the podium and he'd be kind of solemn and he'd be like, dear American people, I have some unbelievable information to reveal to you right now. This is something that we've kept secret due to national security, but because of certain reasons, we are going to go ahead and let everyone know the truth of this situation. And then they show like a freaking hangar with a UFO in it. Like, I mean, I don't know. What do they show? But that's how I have kind of always imagined disclosure would be. Like, I wouldn't imagine that it would be some kind of report that gets presented to Congress, and then it's like we get certain photographs, maybe certain videos, certain testimony from people. Do you think that the way that it's happening compared to the way that I was thinking it would happen, do you think that it'll have the same kind of impact? Like, because when it's like a news bulletin, it's like everybody, the president's going to have a special report on a certain day, and everybody's tuned in. Millions of billions of people worldwide are watching because this is like some earth-shattering information is going to be revealed, compared to like getting a report and then like sifting through whatever data is there.
The way I see this, the way I see true disclosure going down is there being undeniable, like you go outside and there's a huge giant ship up in the sky, right? And no one can deny, oh, that's probably not Russia. You know what I mean? Like, I just have this feeling that no matter what that report entails, if it's not made 100% public for the public to rip apart and to really investigate and look at themselves, I don't see, and I don't really see them being truthful all the way. But then again, I've never been the guy that has always really trusted in his government. So I don't know that it's going to really go down like that. I feel like everything is going to be very, not so black and white, I should say. And it's going to leave a lot open to interpretation, maybe. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, though.
Yeah,
that it's nice and easy.
One of the questions I have here is like, so what if we get some very interesting info, but there's no legit smoking gun? Does that, like, for example, I mean, we can talk about like the videos and stuff that have been released so far. Like if I wanted to go down a skeptical road, this is the road that I would go down. I would say, well, look, if the government or if the military or whoever like is wanting to do this whole thing where they're unraveling this information, why are they giving us these crappy videos that you can barely see what the hell's going on? Because it's like they have freaking technology. They've like if this whole thing is real, then doesn't it validate the whole Roswell thing? Like we did an entire show on Roswell. We talked about the guy at the mortuary guy, right? With the caskets, the children-sized caskets, and how that was such an incredible problem for the U.S. government. It was such a problem, that guy's testimony, that they actually had to spin up a story about like Russian children that were manipulated and put into a ship to make them look like aliens, so that when the ship crashed, people in America would think, oh my God, like they had to go to those levels because they knew the information was out there about this mortuary guy who was completely, not Mac Brazel, but the guy with the caskets and all that. They ordered caskets, children's-sized caskets. Like this is documented. You can't go over that. So they knew that they had to deal with that information. So they came up with this wild story about bodies. We've heard like 9 different explanations about Roswell, right? So like if this stuff is revealed, if this is all true, like, I think it's kind of going to be very difficult for them to say, oh yeah, no, Roswell and all that, no, that stuff was never real. We just discovered aliens 5 years ago. This is like a brand new thing. We're just discovering it now. No, that Roswell stuff, no, that was all no. If they're saying this stuff is legit, then I think it validates Roswell and all that. And if that's the case, then you've got way the F better footage. You've got actual physical items and things that would just prove this shit as solidly as possible. So do they really want to prove this, or do they still want there to be like this rolling doubt? Are we going to go through like this slow boil of disclosure, where they put the frog in the boil, they raise the temperature ever so slowly and then the frog is finally boiling but doesn't realize it?
I think that's kind of what's already been happening throughout time, from the very beginning of the very first thing ever coming out. It's been a very slow progression of clues, of things happening. I think it's kind of all part of easing. It could very much be easing the public into some creepy information that maybe might freak them out. Like if no one ever even thought about UFOs and the government came out one day and said, hey, guess what? There's these alien things, or there's whatever, there's these ships and they come down and they watch us and blah, blah, blah. People would freak out. But since all of these years of everyone looking into it and all these conspiracy theories and cover-ups, I feel like they're kind of banking probably on the fact that that we are kind of looking at this like the boy that cried wolf, right? People aren't completely fully paying attention. There's a lot of people I've talked to, like, oh, I'm doing Dark Frequencies episode on this new disclosure stuff, and they're like, oh, I haven't heard anything about any of this stuff, which is wild because it's in some of the biggest publications, but people just don't take it seriously because of all of the stuff in the past. So, I mean, I kind of think that they are going to, if there's really anything of substance in this report, I think it's probably going to be kind of trickled out in a controlled fashion as to not get the entire planet like freaked out. And I think they have to watch their back, because people are going to come back and say, well, we can't trust you, obviously, because all of this time you've been lying about this stuff, right? So what does that say to the trust of the people that originally held on to this information? So I think they're going to have to be very strategic about how they pull this off. And, hopefully it's not all smoke and mirrors. Hopefully they're actually honest with the people.
Yeah, and one thing that we wanted to talk about here is like this question, are we getting the actual, is this actually going to be the truth that we're getting, or is this an additional bait and switch maneuver like we've seen so many times before? And one of like there's a lot of different theories on why this could possibly be some kind of bait and switch. For example, one possibility is this could be used in some way to scare China, to scare Russia, basically to scare other adversaries from the standpoint that you're basically letting them know that we probably have these like inside, we have this tech that they don't have. It's going to put them on edge. It's going to give us some kind of advantage. I don't know. That's possibility. Another possibility, like one of the things, we have a bunch of things written down here that we're pondering about this, but one possibility is to pretend that the UFO phenomenon is real, but they're just finding out about it right now. In other words, to basically, like, for example, we've had this like 75 years of secrecy, 75 years of denial, 75 years of misinformation, 75 years of ridicule, 75 years of spin, and all this stuff has been going on, right? But if you're the government, if you're the people that are in charge of this scenario, and you're like, you know what, we finally have to let the cat out of the bag. We have to do it. We don't want to do it, but we have to do it now. So now if we're going to do it, let's do it in such a way where we protect our asses. We cover our asses. So what we're going to do is we're going to unravel this in such a way where it's like, no, you know, the lights over Phoenix in the late 90s and Roswell and all that. No, none of that stuff. That stuff was all just, you know, conjecture and mystery, and there's nothing to that. We just found out about this just recently with the Nimitz thing. This is like a this century discovery by our military and by the people involved. And the past 75 years, no, that's just a bunch of hoax. So could it be that they're trying to like basically wipe away history and recreate this new narrative? So what they do is they say, yeah, alien, or, you know, whatever, these things are real, these craft are real. So they give us that nugget. It's kind of, yeah, let's pat you on the back, little UFO nut job. We're going to pat you on the back and tell you, yeah, this is real. But guess what? We're going to wipe out like 65 years of secrecy.
You know, that will absolutely, in my opinion, that's how it would go down, right? There's no way they're going to come out and be like, yeah, we lied, but listen, we did it for a good reason, right? I don't see that happening. I feel like if there is disclosure coming, it's probably more than just the Senate asking for reports on something. I feel like there has to be something that pushes the powers that be to have to reveal this stuff. Like, I think on one of the other episodes that we did about UFOs, we talked about the possibility that maybe there's another government, whether it be China or Russia, whoever, because all of these countries also have their own space programs. They all have their own monitoring equipment to watch the skies and watch for asteroids and you know, monitor their satellites and do all this stuff. So what if, you know, one of these other countries is like, yo, America, listen, we're going to be putting out some information on this stuff. So if you don't want to look like a bunch of idiots, I suggest you tell your people too, because it's about to come out. You know, that's also a good possibility. I think there is, it would be a very rare thing for any government to come out and be like, here's 100% of the truth. You got to kind of mold it, right? And kind of fit it in to match up what you've already said in history. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, this is all so weird, and I would love to be a fly on the wall to actually get all the unfiltered information.
Yeah, let's think about the timing of this entire deal, because it almost feels like there's some kind of deadline that somebody is paying attention to. There's some kind of deadline. There's some kind of like something is going to happen at a certain time, and so we have to get out in front of this. That's the way it seems, because, you know, we've had these lies now, or I mean, potentially, right? We've had these lies and misinformation for 75 years. So why do all of a sudden, you're going to have this like info dump of information about this phenomenon being actually legitimately real? Why do you do that? That it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a question of why now. And one of the questions we have about that is, could it be possible that there is this technology, right, that has been recovered somehow, and this technology has been back engineered, but the thing is, to actually bring this technology into legitimate society, you can't just bring it in, because there's going to be enough intelligent people out there that are going to be like, wait a minute, how the F did this happen? So you're going to have to you're basically going to have to disclose this situation to allow for this technology to come in and be accepted and be part of our modern reality. And somebody would say, well, why would they do that? Okay, well, maybe this climate change situation is really much more out of control than even we know about. And maybe some of this technology could be used to reverse the effects of climate change. So maybe that could be an angle where it's like, we don't want to come out with this alien shit, but we have to because our planet is in severe danger and we need to use this advanced technology, and no one's going to believe this advanced technology, or they're going to, so we have to just reveal this. This is just a necessary evil. What do you think about that possible angle?
I think that's a great angle, and I'll tell you why. In previous episodes, we also discussed something called To the Stars Academy. And this is a legit business. Look this up. Google this if you've never heard of this before, right? Not you, Anthony, but our audience. And and so we have people that used to work for all of these very secret parts of the government that have left the government and formed this company called To the Stars Academy. And the thing that they are saying that they are doing, their main business agenda, is to find alien or UFO technology, recover it, research it, back in, reverse engineer it, and bring it into public, to all the different technologies that we use every day, and then also to make media to explain it to the public. So this is a very real thing that's happening. These people are used to making money, right? So there's money behind this too. There's a lot of money behind this. So if we have these big companies now that's what they do, man. They go out and they find tech from alien whatever, or from unidentified technology that no one knows what it is, and they reverse engineer it. Well, maybe how do you explain that? You put something out that doesn't make any sense. Maybe computer technology doubles or triples overnight. How do you explain something like that? How do you and these people all have they have ties into the government because they used to work for the government, right? So maybe, there could be some cross collab going on there where they're trying to figure out how to disclose this stuff in a proper way, excuse me, without letting out too much fear or anything like that. So with To the Stars Academy, I feel like that is a very, very good possibility.
Yeah. And let's see. Another possibility is that this could be a cash grab by a very small number of elites that are controlling. They have patents related to this alien technology, and that the only way they can really actually truly make money off these patents is for this information to come out. And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we've already patented some information on this. And so that could be a possibility as well. Another thing, of course, is this idea of that this could be the very beginning of something called Project Bluebeam, which of course is this false flag scenario, which we're going to get into that in a little minute, but I mean in a little bit here. But let's go ahead and back up. Let's see. So so what we're talking about at this point in time is we're saying, why now? Why is this happening now? What is the deal? Why is this happening now? Now, one other possibility is that, okay, this is going to sound really crazy, right? But I think this has to be considered. So these vehicles that are moving around in our airspace, something is in intelligent control of these things. Now, we don't know if there's actual biological entities that are aboard these things. We don't know if it's just like some AI, if it's like some type of drone. I mean, obviously we have craft that's on the moon and on Mars, these rovers and stuff. This could be their version of that. So they could be unmanned vehicles, but they could be controlled by we don't know what's in charge of these things, but there's something that's in charge of these things. And the something that is in charge of it is intelligent, because how the F do you build something like this, right? So there's intelligence there. And you could conceivably, possibly imagine that these things have somehow notified our government of some impending event that is going to happen. There could be, like, the thing is, if you have a group of people, they do not want to reveal a secret. They've proven over 70 something years that they have no interest in revealing this secret. This is like the most top secret thing out there. They'll go to any length to prevent people from, people have been mysteriously, like, suicided possibly over this thing over a number of years. There's cases of that where people were discussing something about free energy, and then all of a sudden they were in some like very mysterious accident that killed them like a week later. There's been some weird things that are going on. So what if the only reason this information is coming out is because the others have said, look, at this time we're fucking landing, okay? And so you've got this amount of time to let your people know that this shit is going to happen. So you need to, like, there could be a dialogue. I know it sounds crazy. What do you think about that possibility that there could actually be a dialogue between whatever the hell these things are and some powers that be here on planet Earth?
That's not the first time we would hear about something like that, right? There's always been stories about government entities being in communication with other things, and who knows? We have, this is all interesting times, right? Because not only is the Senate asking for these reports, but we're in a time now where it is becoming cheaper and cheaper to get into space because of companies like SpaceX. And now, instead of, yearly or bi-yearly missions like from NASA, we're getting ships going up and down all of the time, right? People, private companies are launching satellites, and it's not just ships up there. Now there's satellites up there with all kinds of radio frequencies, with cameras, with insane like telescopes and just all kinds of cool technology, right? So the government formed Space Force. That's kind of weird, right? That now we have a government entity called Space Force, and they're supposed to kind of monitor the satellite situation and do all that fun stuff. But it's like it's interesting that all of this is happening during this time. So I think it's very much a possibility that that maybe somehow we were contacted through some of these satellites or whatever the case may be, and that we have to, they have to disclose. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah. So one argument that I've heard though is that, let's pretend, okay, first of all, we don't know that these things are actually coming from other planets. Like that's number one. Like the occupants of these vehicles, assuming that there's actual biological material that is in these vehicles, they could be from planet Earth for all we know. They could have lived in the oceans. In fact, there's a story, I believe, Ezra Klein of the New York Post or New York Times or whatever, wrote a story about this whole thing that's unraveling. And one point that he made at a certain point is that if you look at like octopus and you look at the intelligence level of an octopus and you think of all the things that could be at the bottom of our ocean that could have been there for millions of years, things that could evolve, we've got undiscovered country, right? That's below the oceans. We've got so much undiscovered area of our planet that has not been discovered. We don't know all the organisms that live on this planet. I know it sounds unbelievably far-fetched, but it's possible that something could have been evolving for millions of years under the water at the same time that things were evolving above land. There could be some kind of life form that is actually living here on planet Earth. So this might not be extraterrestrial at all. It might not even be from another dimension. This could be right here from planet Earth. There could be some civilization that is living parallel with us. I know that sounds unbelievably fantastic, but we have to consider all these different angles, right? Then there's
I've seen so many articles out there specifically about octopus, right? Where they do not match up with any of the other types of biological entities that we have here in the planet. They have all kinds of weird things that don't show up in any other organism. And there's a lot of theories that something came on a comet or an asteroid that hit the ground, that hit, that hit the water, and these things evolved from an alien DNA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and then of course another angle is like, because one of the things that you get into when you start talking about this subject is, especially from the scientific community, is they just laugh the whole thing off and say, you don't understand the distances in space. You just don't understand the distances involved. You don't understand the amount of energy that would have to be expended to get from one side of, that's the whole thing that they go into. And I want to reach through my TV screen and strangle these people sometimes, because it's like, is this the only possible thing? These things have to be from outer space? Like, you guys are the guys that came up with effing string theory, right? And doesn't string theory require a minimum of 11 dimensions or more? Like, if string theory was proven to be correct, you absolutely must have like more than somewhere between like 11 and 17 dimensions or something like that, right? So there's the possibility of interdimensional beings, so that they're right here. In fact, they could be in this goddamn room, but they're in another dimension. They're not visible. And maybe these things have evolved in such a way, they got their technology to a certain way where they can actually briefly come out of their dimension into our dimension, which actually would explain the erratic behavior of their vehicles. For example, like the way their vehicles move, it doesn't work with the way our physics works. And so either we've got a problem with our physics, or maybe, because it's possible, like what if you had a fifth dimensional being that was moving through your three-dimensional space, and it could look like they are breaking the laws of your physics. They're not really. It's just from your vantage point, the way you're seeing it, it's like things are disappearing and reappearing, but that might not be the case. It just could be something that's involved in another dimension. For us, when we perceive it as, oh, it's skipping along. It's like a saucer that's skipping along. It's moving erratically, but maybe it's moving perfectly fine, but it's like moving in and out of multiple dimensions every split second, and so it has this erratic behavior. So there's a lot of possibilities in terms of like what these things could be, right? I mean, hell, another possibility, we've heard this crazy idea, right, that a bunch of Nazis, like during World War II, went to Antarctica. I don't know if you've ever heard of this theory, right? That there's all these Nazis that went to Antarctica, and they started a civilization basically in Antarctica since, the end of World War II, and they've had their mad scientists working overtime. And so these things are actually made by humans. They're just made by these humans that broke off. And, so I'm just saying there's so many different potential possibilities for what this thing is. But
we talk about scientists and science in general, right? The thing is, as a civilization, we're still learning. And we're finding out all different kinds of things all of the time. We have theories being raised all the time, like daily, right? We have things that are getting written into science books as we speak, because we're learning. We're not a mature civilization. We don't understand exactly how space works. We don't understand how time works, right? I mean, we have theory of relativity and things like this. We have different ways that we believe time and space bend to different types of objects and different mass of planets and things. We don't get it yet. We don't understand what dark matter is. There's a lot of things we don't understand. We're not up in space all, constantly. We don't have civilizations up there that are studying and doing all of these tests. So it's ridiculous to me to say, well, you don't understand the space involved in space, right? Well, yeah, neither do you, right? So it's very possible. We don't understand how black holes work. How do we know that there isn't a society or something out there that does know how to bend space travel large distances in very short periods of time. This all seems very not far out there for me. You know what I mean? And yes, also with the dimension thing, that could be a thing. It could be, there could be
Time travelers. Time travelers is a possibility as well.
That's possible as well. A lot of these things are not, if we knew everything, we would be able to do this stuff as well very easily. We wouldn't have to go and ask, the powers that be, oh, what's going on with all this stuff? Because we'd already know. We're a growing, learning society, and we have a lot to learn still.
Yeah, and actually, you bring up a good point here, and because you brought that point up, I want to go into it a little bit more as well, is this idea that, especially among the scientific community, they really feel like they have a grasp. It's like, we really know a lot. Yeah, we're missing some pieces, but we've got the fundamental building blocks of it. They really think that they really know a lot. And the argument that I would make is 2,000 years from now, when it's the year 4000, do you when it's the year 4000, don't you think people in the year 4000 are gonna laugh about the type of shit that we thought we knew right now? Just like we laugh at the things that people thought they knew in the year 350 or the year 475 or whatever. And so what I'm trying to say is, and I also believe this, in the year 6000, they're going to laugh at the shit that people thought in the year 4000. And in the year 10,000, they're going to laugh at the things that people thought in the year 6000. So what I'm saying is, as you continue to progress through generations and generations and evolution, and you advance as a species, you're going to start to learn more and more and more about how things really work. And you're going to learn how wrong you really were. But you really thought you were right, but you were completely wrong. And this is going to continue. And if I explain this to some hardcore scientific person, they'd be like, "Oh no, that might have been true for the year 400, but now we've reached a certain level." But dude, in every time frame, they thought they were the elites. They thought, this is the future. We know everything. We have a level of knowledge that is so high. Back in the year, 1385, they thought they were at the pinnacle. They thought they knew, that they never thought there would be.
And they were at that time, right? Every year we move on, that's the year where we know the most. And that's the year we're the smartest, right? Because we continue to make advancements. This is just how things work. You know what I mean? You go back 1,000 years ago, that was the smartest we were back then. That is the most we ever knew. And if you told someone 1,000 years ago that, hey, I'll be able to walk up to this flat panel and I'll be able to push these buttons, and instantly on the other side of the world, someone's going to get a message from me or imagery from me, they'd say you were nuts, that is not even scientifically possible, because we weren't there yet. We didn't understand yet. There's a lot of things that hadn't been invented yet. So this is absolutely a very, very valid point, in my opinion.
Yeah, so one thing I want to go back to this idea, though, that they may have contacted us in some sort of way, because one of the complaints you'll get there, one of the arguments that you'll get there, and I believe this is a pretty goddamn valid argument, and I'm honestly not disagreeing with these people, but basically what they'll say is, okay, they'll say that communicating with these others is going to be damn near impossible. And their argument for this is, just look at us and chimpanzees. So here we are living on planet Earth. We have this relative that is so close to us from a DNA standpoint. I mean, they share 99.7% of the same DNA, us and chimpanzees. Yet, are we communicating with chimpanzees? Are we telling chimpanzees, hey, you better tell all your chimp buddies that something is about to happen on October 10th. So warn your chimp buddies, because because we're going to land our goddamn ships. And yet we're here on planet Earth with a creature that is very close to us, yet we're going to have the audacity to believe that some creatures that could be 1,000,000 years more advanced than us would actually be able to communicate with us and would even choose to communicate with us. For example, like I might turn my sprinklers on later this afternoon. Am I going to try to contact the head of the ants on the ground and try to meet their leader and say, hey, you know what, I'm about to turn my sprinklers on at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon today. A lot of your people are probably going to get killed, so you probably want to relocate to it. No, I don't do that, because I look at the ants and I think they're below me. I can't even communicate. These things are too dumb to even communicate with. Who's to say that these things, like, what do you think the odds are that they would actually communicate with us?
I think if you go from chimps to humans and then you try to think in your mind about that same evolutionary step forward, right? From us to whatever the next, if we were the chimps and then there was an intelligent race that was that much more intelligent than the chimps, right? Does that make sense? That they would be able to, they probably figured it out already. You know what I mean? Like one of our problems with communicating with anything is our language. I think we will get to a point where language is no longer a thing. We have chimps now that have Neuralink implants that are able to control and play very impressive games of Pong with just their brain. At some point, humans are going to also have those same implants. And then at that point, maybe we'll be able to communicate with these animals like never before. And I think maybe that type of evolutionary step up might be a thing in the other direction too, right? Maybe they get to the point where they could absolutely communicate with us. Or maybe we are the ants.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just coming to check out their ant farm, right?
Yeah, no.
So there's a lot of different scenarios here where things can absolutely change and change quickly and overnight.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I can see both sides of the argument. Like, I can see the chimp ant type argument and be like, yeah, you're right. There's like, why would they would look at us as like ridiculously infantile creatures, and it's just a waste of time to even bother. Like we just can't grasp the kinds of things that they understand, and so they would it would be like trying to communicate to your cat and try to like get your cat to like change their civilization. I mean, it would be futile, right? But then there's another part of me that believes, well, maybe there is this like base level of intelligence that you can get to, where even if something is way more advanced, as long as you're up to that base level, they know that they can kind of communicate, some base ideas, possibly via mathematics. We've seen this in a lot of different sci-fi movies where like mathematics is going to be that universal language, and that you can communicate. So yeah, I kind of see both sides of the argument, but I guess one of the things that we have to consider, there is a possibility that there is some kind of deadline, and going back to where we got into this discussion originally, why is this happening right now? There could be some kind of deadline. It could be some kind of human organized deadline. It could be some kind of non-human organized deadline. But it just seems odd that this is happening right here, right now. Why? And especially, so the next subject I wanted to get into, Skeeve, is like, what's going to happen to the stock market and what's going to happen to our world economy if this truly is a legitimate disclosure event? So imagine in June, smoking gun like a mofo, like freaking alien bodies, like the whole thing. I can't imagine this would actually happen, but let's just say that like freaking live video of like ships landing, creatures walking around, like ridiculous evidence comes out. And so straight up, this is a new reality. We are not alone. There's some other thing, whatever it doesn't matter what the other thing is. All it matters is that there's something that is beyond us. because we don't believe that there's something beyond us. So this would be the realization: you are not the top dog. Sorry, homie, you're not the top dog. You thought you were. Now you need to reevaluate. Well, anytime you have incredible amounts of uncertainty and unknown situations, well, this of course affects the global markets. It affects the stock market. Hey, I've got money in the stock market right now, and if you tell me that like aliens are going to be revealed, like, I mean, if that were to truly happen, what happens to the stock market? Does it absolutely freaking collapse upon itself? Do certain stocks jump up to the moon like Lockheed Martin? Because Harry Reid says, like Harry Reid, right, said that Lockheed Martin has possession of a downed UFO. Like Lockheed Martin. So if that was true, like you'd be like, oh shit, let me load up on some Lockheed Martin stock. That shit's going to be $10,000 a share the next day, but everything else is going to drop to like $1. The market's going to crash. Everybody's going to be in a panic. People aren't going to want to go to work anymore. People are going to commit suicide. I mean, remember in the olden days, we used to always think, oh, they're never going to reveal this because it's going to destroy religion. It's going to, people are going to go nuts. They're just going to go crazy. But then other people say, no one's going to go crazy. I still got to go to work the next day. I got to pay my rent. Okay, so there's other intelligent beings. Who cares? Like, they don't appear to be causing any problems. They're just flying around. They're not doing anything. So I just got to go to work the next day. So my question for you, Skiva, what do you think about like the economies, the stock market? Because we just went through this pandemic. Why would they do this right now? Again, why would they do this right now? We just went through a lot of drama. Now they're going to drop a freaking alien bomb on us?
This is a really good question, because we're in a day and time now where if someone of power or great notoriety, but even tweets, it affects markets, it affects cryptocurrency, it affects stocks. One person has the ability to change markets. We saw with GameStop, we saw Reddit take over and change the price of stocks and really drive unnatural growth. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is these markets are so crazy, right, that I think absolutely something will probably, we'll probably see some weird fluctuations in the market. Maybe they won't be good, but eventually I think it'll turn around, right? Because we're going to have, I feel like we have these companies that their jobs are to reverse engineer alien technology, right? Those are going to go, that stuff is going to go to companies where they're going to make really cool products out of it, right? They're going to make all kinds of cool shit. So how would that not bring the stocks back up? I mean, I'm
but
not
think
sure
of the money, but think of all the money that is like in oil and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. That, like, to
Dude,
me,
oil's a dying thing. Oil used to be big oil. Now big pharma is bigger than big oil. You know what I mean? Big data is bigger than big oil. We're moving away from combustion engines, and we're moving towards an all-electric future. Why? Because we have to, or we're all going to die. You know what I mean? Like, you can't make more fossil fuels. It is what it is. If we run out, we're screwed. If we keep putting all that stuff into our environment, into the ozone, we're screwed. So, I mean, we're getting to a point where some of these big powers are seeing a major shift. Right? If you told me 20 years ago that big data, whatever that would have been 20 years ago, right, would be more powerful than big oil, wow, I wouldn't have believed you. But look where we are today.
Okay, I mean, I get that, but still, there's still billions upon billions of dollars in oil. Like, there still is. Like, even, like, it's not as big as it used to be, but it's still freaking gargantuan, man. And what I go back to is like, okay, let's consider the stimulus payments that are happening right now. Like, our government is so deathly afraid of our economy slipping into some kind of unfortunate situation, and it's like, oh my God, we can't let that happen. So let's like increase the entire money supply by 1/3 magically within the last 2 years. Like 1/3 of all money that is currently in circulation right now was created in the last 18 months out of thin air. That is how much they care about not disrupting their precious little economy and their precious markets and all of this, but yet they're going to allow the revelation that there's these other things that we have no effing control over. See, the thing is, markets don't like uncertainty. This is what they don't like. They like certainty. Whenever there is uncertainty, the markets effing collapse. When the COVID thing first happened back in March, the market collapsed. Why did it collapse? It collapsed because, oh shit, we don't know what's going to happen with this. We don't know how long this is going to happen. We don't know how many people are going to die. We don't have the information. All we have is uncertainty, collapse. Okay, well, this is the epitome of uncertainty because we don't know hardly anything about this thing. We got to imagine that they're not going to reveal that we know a hell of a lot about it. They're going to try to pretend that they're just as confused as we are, but like there is something out there. So now you're adding this amazing level of uncertainty behind everything. There's a lot of people. So like me and you, Skeeve, like we're fine with this thing. We've heard of UFOs forever. I've freaking seen UFOs with my own eyes in broad effing daylight. Like right there, I saw a UFO. Like you don't have to convince me. Either I'm clinically insane, either I'm seeing hallucinations like regularly, or I saw an effing UFO. Period. Dot. Right? You don't have to convince me. So I'm not necessarily freaked out and thinking, oh my God, an invasion is going to happen. All of a sudden, a year from now, I'm going to be a slave working in the trillium mines on planet 7. I mean, who knows what the hell could possibly happen? But that uncertainty is out there. But the point I'm making is your average Joe Schmo, right? Joe Walmart, Sally Coles, like, your average person out there, they find out that there's these things that are zipping around the airspace. They're over our nuclear installations. They're literally turning off our nuclear capabilities and turning it back on. They're effing with us, man. They're flying. Like some of the stuff that they did, like these pyramid vehicles that were flying around some of the destroyers, they like were basically almost like clowning, like deliberately effing with them, like doing all these crazy maneuvers. It was almost like the guy said it was almost like some kind of aggressive display, like basically saying, look, we can do whatever the F we want with you guys. You can't do shit to stop us. We're in control here. Having that information out there, having that uncertainty out there, there's a lot of people, they're driving their kids to school. There's people that cannot handle this shit, man. So why would you have this information come out? There are people that cannot handle this. They cannot handle the uncertainty. Go ahead.
I'll tell you some possibilities of why. I think so I'm going to go down a little bit of a conspiracy theory rabbit hole here. So get ready. But I feel like it's a possibility that every 10 to 20 years, governments need to show their value by some big thing happening that freaks people out. And then they say, well, we need the government to save us and to help us. So here's more tax money. Here's this, here's that. We're not going to fight this because you guys have to save us, right? Like, so this could be a power play as well, because the crazier things that happen, the more people look up to their government to go, oh, you definitely hold this value for us, right? We, things like 9/11 and COVID and all this stuff, right? What if, they're trying to divert our attention from things that may be shady that are happening and saying, wait, you don't trust us anymore? Wait, but look, there's aliens now. We can protect you from aliens. We have armies. Give us some more money even, right? We'll bring out the tanks. Don't worry, we got you. right? So that's kind of my devil's advocate argument to that, I guess.
Well, yeah, that kind of is going towards like the blue beam idea, right? The false flag idea potentially, and like this. One of the things that we've heard like ever since COVID, like if you go anywhere near some of the conspiracy forums that are out there, and I do go to them mostly for entertainment value. I check them out every once in a while to see what the tinfoil hat people out there are thinking about. And one of the things that have happened ever since this pandemic, of course, is people talk about something called the Great Reset, which is this idea, and you'll actually, like, actual politicians have said this, like Build Back Better, the Great Reset, like Trudeau from Canada. Like there's a lot of little weird, like some of these conspiracy people, like you think they're complete and utter nut jobs, but then you hear this guy mention the Great Reset. You hear Boris from England mention the Great Reset. You hear Angela Merkel mention the Great Reset or Build Back Better. It's almost like the New World Order. There's this New World Order. And one of the big theories that everybody has is this idea of a one world government, one currency, one military, one government. And what better way to create that scenario than to have an outside threat where all the countries, like we've got an outside threat. Now we're humans. Once you introduce others, now I'm not an American. I'm not an Italian. I'm a human. There's a and I'm a human, and that's a schlakashong, or I mean, whatever these things are going to be called, I don't know, right? But it does create, like, that's one thing that would happen is you would start to identify, well, those are aliens, and we're humans. So now you become humans, and this is how we usher in this one world government. Is that the secret plan, Skeeve?
I think, the word conspiracy was created by the CIA to discredit people who go against the common narrative. Really, that's all it is. To make someone look crazy with one broad term that covers so many different things, right? So, I mean, this is very possible. I could see that being a feasible thing.
I have a side tangent. Can I do a side tangent real quick?
Yes.
What's so bad about a one world government? Like I was thinking about this the other day, and because think about like when one company acquires another company, one of the biggest values of one company acquiring another company is the elimination of redundancy. All these same, like they're doing all these same things. Like, no, you don't need it. Now we're putting it all under one roof. For example, like I'm trying to learn a different language, right? And I was thinking about like all the languages that are in this world. How dumb is it? Like I don't know. It seems dumb to me that we speak like 500 different languages. Like you would think we would all get to
competition too, right? Because if other people aren't doing other things, no one ever improves. So I feel like, if one government were to come and rule them all, how do we ever know that we're doing it right? You know what I mean? Like
that's a good point, actually. That's a really good point.
There has to be competition in everything in life, I think.
But imagine if we had one currency. Imagine we create a new language. Like we get a bunch of linguistic professors and stuff together. We get all these different people together, and they're like, okay, we're going to create a brand new language, a brand new alphabet. We're going to design it in a really logical way. So we're going to create this easy language, but it's very expressive, and it can express all the ideas we need it to, but it's more logical. And we're going to start to teach everybody this one language, and then maybe
that's coming.
Maybe
it's called brain-computer interfacing.
And 50 years from now, everybody will speak the same language. You won't go to places and see these weird-ass signs with all these weird-ass symbols all over the place. Everybody will speak the same language. There will be one currency. Imagine if we had one military. Imagine how much money Russia's spending on their military, and China's spending on their military, and we're spending on our military, and England's spending on their military, and France is spending on their military, and Israel is spending. Imagine we just have one military that is just what we're humans. We're like, if I'm an alien and I'm looking at the planet, I'm like, these guys are idiots. They're divided up in all these little tribes. They don't even speak the same language. They're fighting with like they're all on the same planet. They're fighting with each other. They're killing. They're all humans. They're fighting with each other. Like, this is the silliest thing ever. Like, shouldn't they just have, I mean, when are they going to get to the point where they have one government, one language, one currency, where they're united? Like, this isn't united. I don't know, but people always complain about like this one government future. And to me, I think like, wait a minute, it's kind of a good idea, isn't it? Or maybe not. I don't know.
Some of it is a good idea, right? Because what's the ultimate end game for humanity, right? What do we really want to get to? And I think one of those things is unity, right? We want to be able to feel like we are the same as everybody. There's, a dog that has, one color fur doesn't hate the other dog because it has a different color fur. It's, it's not how it really works anywhere other than humanity. We are trying to get to the point where we are a better society, where we don't need all of these different governments and entities telling us who we are and what we are, right? So I feel like in one way it's a good thing. But the thing is, you still have that overlying umbrella of control. And I don't know that that's necessarily where we need to be. With unity would come understanding and a lot of these things, and ultimate empathy and all of these things, where I don't think you would need a government. So one group of people that controls the whole planet could be very bad.
One welfare system, one stimulus check.
But I think, honestly, what you were saying about like a common language would be brain-computer interfacing. There isn't a language out there that you can really, really explain what it is that you're trying to get across with absolute 100% certainty that you're getting your point across, right? So you would probably need to think that thing to another person, and that's kind of the direction we're moving towards with Neuralink, with Valve doing all this information with brain-computer interfacing. This is the new hotness, right? Eventually, if we all have BCIs, people wouldn't need to talk anymore, and I think that's going to be the unified language, right?
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting idea. Okay, so one angle that we haven't touched on yet, we're going to get a little bit more to the false flag thing here in just a minute. I actually have some, we have two little video clips that I want to play about the false flag narrative and that idea. So we're going to get to that in just a second. But let's talk about religion for a second, because that's everybody's favorite topic, right? Let's get into a discussion of religion. But when we talk about religion and we talk about UFOs, like I can remember back in like the 1980s or the 1990s, like when you would just ask an average Joe Blow person, like if you're talking to somebody about like UFOs or Roswell or something, and you're like, yeah, I don't know why they never released that, you're having a barbecue or something, you guys somehow got on a discussion of UFOs, and like somebody says like, yeah, I don't know why they would keep this a secret. Like, what's the big deal? And then somebody will say, I know why. It's because of religions, man. It would cause chaos. If you reveal this, like all of a sudden these religions are all going to implode on themselves. There's going to, people are going to be like, no, this is bullshit. You guys are trying to take the religion away from me. These are lies. There's going to be wars. There's going to be terrorism. There's going to be all, because like, I mean, you start messing with people's religion, shit gets crazy. So one of the questions I have, of course, is how are the world's religions going to adapt to this new reality? Are they going to like try to spin it in their own direction? Is it going to be mass chaos, mass confusion? What's going to happen?
So, I think that used to be, and still is, a very valid thing to be concerned about. But at the same time, since the uprising of the internet, I think we have seen religion fade more than it ever has in the past. Everything used to be very much religion-based. Ever since fast, open communications, I think a lot of people are starting to to kind of go their own way with their own spirituality. And I think this might be a part in history where we are less bound by religion than ever before, right? Like I was talking about before, we had, big oil was once a mecca power, and they still are very powerful, but they're not top dog anymore. The Vatican and all of the religions of the world were all the most powerful thing there was. They had a lot of control, a lot of say in, what may be disclosed in the past, and maybe they don't have that pull anymore because they're not the power that they once were. They don't have
in the USA.
In the US, yeah, but I mean, I feel like it's, people are starting to change all over the world. I don't think it's just the USA.
Well, if we go to the Middle East, though, I mean, the religious fervor in the Middle East, like when you talk about control, like control is still there in Israel, and then in all the Muslim countries as well. Like that's where.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's gone. Yeah. I'm just saying it's a little bit less than it was in the past, right? Where maybe at this point they don't have the pull that they once had. As a possibility.
What do you think, though? Like, let's take like Muslim religions for in particular. Like, do you believe, because we know about the Vatican? So the Vatican has already made statements about like other lives and like if microbes are found on Mars, and like the Vatican already got in front of that. The Vatican said, look, we have no problem with that. God creates a lot of different things, even though there's actually some real problems. There are real problems. If you go back to the Bible and the way things were broken down in the Bible, like they're really kind of going into spin mode to allow these other creatures in terms of like, God was made in man's image, and like they've got serious problems.
I don't know,
there,
man. The problem with the Bible though is it's all interpreted. Nothing is, you don't read the Bible and that's the way it is. The way you read it is the way it is. It was interpreted and written by people in different languages. You can't just read something and go, oh, well, there it is. It says it right there. You have to be like, well, this is how I interpret this statement. So you can very easily get around that and kind of be like, and just reinterpret the things that are in there, because there is no black and white in any religion.
But one of the things I was reading, and unfortunately I really should have like copied this quote. It was a really good breakdown about it, but it was saying that the only way they could legitimately spin it, like if you really want to get deep into the weeds of like the Bible and everything, they would have to make a case that basically Jesus traveled to all these other civilizations and did like I saved you from your sin type thing with all of them as well, and like that's just so improbable.
Well, he could have been, but he wouldn't have been in his Jesus form. Do you know what I mean? Like if he probably go anywhere and be any kind of form, right? I mean, I don't even think honestly that's even a factor. Look, and one of the other things that we were talking about is we don't know that this is little green men from another planet, right? This could be a lot of different things. This could be us in the future, maybe coming back in a time machine, or just or through dimensions to try to stop, who knows, some crazy catastrophe, from happening. There's a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that, there's going to be these gray or green guys with these weird eyes that are going to come down and think, and all of a sudden our brains are going to explode, right? It could very much still be a human thing that we just haven't thought of, right? Maybe there's a Middle Earth thing going on. I don't know. There's like a whole lot of different ways that this could pan out, but it would work in religion's favor if this happened to be some kind of human thing that we haven't really explored.
But I think, honestly, this could be spun both ways. So, like, if we really, like, let's say you really do have creatures of some type, whether they're interdimensional or whatever, because Lou Elizondo, the guy, the 60 Minutes guy and all that, the guy that's basically breaking this whole story wide open, supposedly, one of the things that he talked about is like ever since they've been discovering this, there's been people in very high places that were extremely religious. These are like, like your Republican like leaders that, they have this like, they have this very religious view and, the Bible Belt and all of that. And that they looked at these things and thought, this is the devil. These are like, seriously, like no joke. They literally said, this is the devil. These are demons. This is part of Revelations. And like literal government officials, military officials said, no, we're not going to look at this. Avoid this. Forget about it. Don't bother with it. This is demons. Don't mess with it. Right. And so I know it sounds unbelievably crazy that would be true, but supposedly this is really what happened in the early days of the UFO thing. And I could see that in like a modern revelation of this happening. Religions could be like, oh, let's lean into this UFO thing. These really are the effing demons. Here's the proof. This is the proof of religion. Here's the demons. Here's the Nephilim or whatever. Like if you go back to the Bible, whatever, they say that there was this group that was like banished and they're like the Nephilim or whatever. And they can float around in our atmosphere and stuff. And so they're going to be like, oh yeah, this is proof of it. Religion proved, religion validated. So do you think they're going to spin it the complete opposite way? And also, wait, in addition to that, all the people, remember how I was talking about Sally Coles and Joe Walmart, like people having fear of this uncertainty, fear of the unknown, fear of what maybe, there could be an alien invasion. We could be enslaved, who knows what the F could happen, right? And when you have fear like this, what do people gravitate towards? They gravitate towards something that they feel is solid, that can protect them and save them. And maybe people go towards religion. So maybe this is a way to actually increase religion.
That's a possibility. Anything unexplainable or anything different could be, in a lot of ways, in a lot of religions, summed up as the devil, right? I remember a time when rock and roll was the devil. Right? Like anything that isn't approved by that power is probably the devil. So, of course, people are going to spin it that way. Of course, religions are going to kind of be all over the place with this. People want a way in their brain to explain to themselves how things work that they don't understand. So they're going to gravitate towards whatever they believe in, whether it be religion, whether it be government, whether it be it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that they see as the rock in their life, they're going to go to that for some explanations. I think there's going to be a lot of, there could be this whole new thing where, remember back in the day, there was all these like mass suicides and people were drinking the Kool-Aid, right? I mean, there could be all that could all come back. I mean, we could see things in a lot of different ways kind of spin out of control. And I think if it came out that it was actually little green men, we will see a lot of weird stuff. But I think there will be that spike, and then it'll come down and kind of even itself out as people realize it doesn't really change as much as maybe they think it does.
Do you think there could be, if we are in some kind of dialogue, if we're in some kind of dialogue with these creatures, right? Assuming they're creatures, or we're obviously there has to be higher intelligence. That these things had to be manufactured somewhere, So these things are created by something. Okay, we're calling them aliens just because it's an easy thing to do, but if there's some type of dialogue that is between us and them. These things are obviously way the F more advanced than us, right? With capabilities way beyond what we have. Their civilizations, these could be the people in the year 10,000 that are laughing at the people in the year 2000 that don't know shit. You know what I mean? But times 10, an order of magnitude, right? So these things could be communicating that, hey, they could say, there is no God. We know, like we've actually been able to do some kind of crazy experiment. We know that, I don't know how they could possibly do that, but, they could say there is no God, or they could say, no, there is a God and it's blah, blah, blah. And here's exactly what it looks like. And we'll give you the entire Bible and everything. Like, what do you think about that? Like, could we see an entirely new religion? Could their information upend our belief systems? Like, how does that all work?
I think you'll see a new religion where people think, or maybe it would be true, maybe who knows, man. But I feel like there will be people that think those entities are God, right? Or there's a billion different ways to spin that, and a lot of people are going to try to comfort themselves in believing however it is that they feel like they need to believe, right? I mean, the possibility of this being so many different things is so big. What if it's the creators of the simulation and they're in here to do some antivirus cleanup or something, right? I mean, there's just so many weird possibilities that could come into play. And I do think you will see all kinds of religious craziness happening. You know, suicides and religions coming out and saying, okay, well, this is now how we interpret this, or, man, I don't know. It's so bizarre because anytime anything major happens, it is then interpreted. People go back and try to find its interpretations in the Bible, and that's one of the problems with it. It's all you got to interpret it.
Hey,
So I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned suicides, and that kind of goes back to this idea of like a general panic, right? Like there becomes this panic, and like nobody, like people are just like doing crazy shit, and it makes me think of the run on toilet paper. Remember the run on toilet paper?
Oh, I remember. Yeah. I remember very, very well because I was one of those people that could not get toilet paper. And it went to the point where I was using Chipotle napkins for a very long time. And I actually traded weed for toilet paper, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, I did. I can't believe that happened, but I needed something soft down there.
Wow. Okay, so, but don't you, if this was a true, if this was a real effing disclosure, wouldn't that make the whole toilet paper thing look like an absolute joke? So, are we going to be in a situation in the month of June? See, that's the thing. It's like, is this whole thing going to unravel in the month of June, or is this all a false alarm? There's so many possibilities. You could show me a sequence of events where it's like, oh my God, there's video of Costco. The shelves are completely empty. Everything's gone everywhere. People are getting in, there's a run on guns, all the stuff that happened in the pandemic. There were lines at every gun store to buy tons of guns.
That'll definitely happen. If they come out and they're like, yo, there's these creatures, we don't even know what they want. Every gun's going to be sold out. Every bullet's going to be gone. It's going to be crazy. I know in Arizona, especially, right, where you can go to Walmart and buy a gun and ammo without even an ID. You know what I mean? It's going to be a thing for sure. In any time in history, people freak out, people overreact. People look to powers that they need to comfort them and to guide them through things. And this will absolutely be one of those scenarios if that's how this pans out. But I think it would be more like, they might come out with one little teeny tiny tidbit and then see how the public reacts, right? And then go into a meeting and go, okay, this is how people reacted. This is probably how we should steer this information, or the disclosure of this information, maybe I should say, because it doesn't benefit anybody if people do freak out and start doing all kinds of weird things. In all reality,
well, wait a minute, it doesn't benefit anybody. Doesn't it benefit governmental control? To make everything chaotic and then say, here we are to save you from the chaos.
Well, yes, but you don't want people turning against government. And people, going and saying, well, you lied to us, now we don't trust you, right? They do have to maintain that control. They have to be the powers that say, hey, we can make this safe for you. Trust in us. Let us pass more Patriot Acts and all these things because it's good for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, imagine, so during the pandemic, a lot of people, remember there was, here in California, we had what do you call it? What do they call it when no one can leave after a certain time? You have to stay home.
Curfew.
Yeah, curfew. Yeah, we had these curfews and stuff, and people were wondering, this is going to be martial. If you went to the conspiracy theory places, right? They're going to enact martial law. This is a secret plan to enact martial law. Well, if you cause mass confusion and every Costco is raided, and guns are gone, and there's riots, and there's looting,
Yeah.
and
And Tractor Basil just brought up a good point that we just saw our Capitol stormed recently. When has that happened in the past, right? Where you saw people scaling buildings and like climbing up the walls and actually going into official government buildings with masks on and stuff. I mean, this stuff is all kind of unprecedented, all over the place. All the things that are happening in the world right now. This could absolutely, they're definitely going to have to. There's no way that they just put this paper out with all the real information that really gets divulged and just say, here you go, people, have at it. No, they're going to have to make it so people don't freak out and they continue to trust in their governments and their religions, all of these things. Otherwise, they could lose control. And the main focus here is going to be strengthening their control and not relinquishing it.
Okay, can I throw something at you completely out of left field? So the 60 Minutes piece that happened, I guess it was a week ago today, was the 60 Minutes episode, Lou Elizondo. It was a really big thing in the UFO community because it's like 60 Minutes has never, ever done any segment about UFOs, ever. And this is a serious news organization, right? They wouldn't be caught dead doing it. But now they have done it because this is this sea change that is going on. And so like lots of people in the UFO community, this was like this incredibly big deal. Okay, so in the aftermath of this 60 Minutes thing that happened, I was in some different Reddit threads where people were talking about this and people were talking about that. But some people got into this discussion where they were like, yeah, so this whole 60 Minutes thing happened, and I told my wife, I was like, hey, Shelly, you got to come over here. This is amazing, UFOs. And like this guy told his wife about it, and his wife was like, I don't want to hear about that. I'm watching freaking Dances with the Stars. I don't, like that's boring. Like, there's people that literally don't give a fuck about this. How is that humanly possible? Like, could you imagine you release all this UFO information and people are like, yeah, whatever. Is Dancing with the Stars still coming on at 10 p.m. tonight? Okay, then I'm all good. It's like there's a lot of people out there that have been exposed to the stuff that has already happened, these Pentagon videos, and they're just not even tripping on it, man. So what is it going to, like, what if all this is disclosed and nobody freaking cares?
Well, there will be some people that don't care, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. And one could be that denial will make that person less scared, right? So if they pretend if they don't care and they don't watch anything to do with it, they won't freak out, right? That could be a very valid thing. Another thing could be that some people are wrapped up so much in their own ego that anything outside of their universe, the world doesn't revolve around them, but in their mind it does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me at this moment. Once it does affect me, I'll have an opinion, right? There's a lot of different things. I think we're going to see every possible type of reaction come out because everyone deals with everything very, very differently. I don't know that if it were factual, if that person that didn't care and wants to go watch Dancing with the Stars, if they saw a UFO hovering outside their house, well, now it becomes very real and it enters their personal space, right? Right now, we've been desensitized with 75 years of, oh, did you hear about this? Oh, well, these guys have a UFO and there's, these people are hiding alien bodies and children's caskets and blah, blah, blah. And they hear all this stuff. Their whole lifetime they hear this. And now they're like, oh, there's this, we have confirmed that the government doesn't know what these things are. They don't care. They've been pounded with this stuff their whole life, and they don't have a general interest in it. And until that ship shows up above their house and starts sucking people out the roof, they're probably not going to care, right? I mean, it has to get real. It has to get real. Just like, people have talked about the possibility of a global pandemic for a long time, right? But until it got real, no one really did anything about it, right? I mean, what are you going to do? Like you only put into you only give the energy to things that you have some kind of control over. And so some people might just kind of blow it off.
I think your original response was like this idea that like some people, they just can't handle this shit, so they just don't even want to think about it. Like they just want to put, because I remember when I was talking about the, like I've talked about the Mandela effect to certain people, and I've given them some like really interesting shit about the Mandela effect, and you could almost see it happen in their brain where it's like, this violet, like I'm in their head, it's like they're thinking, this violates my worldview. I do not want to change. I'm not interested in changing my worldview right now. So neener, neener, neener. I'm not listening to anything you say, and I'm gonna try to immediately forget about this. And I just want to immediately forget about this because my brain simply can't handle this. I don't want to deal with this. This is something I don't want to deal with. Like there is this idea that like people shut shit off, and they're like, no, I can't handle this. So I'm not even gonna freak. Like there's an idea that you could have a UFO hovering. Some people wouldn't see it. Some people wouldn't see the UFO because it violates their worldview so much that it's almost like a trauma. It's like protection from trauma. So it's like, oh, I'm not even gonna freaking see the thing because I gotta protect. It's like I'm putting up this wall. I'm protecting myself from the uncertainty and being scared and being deathly afraid.
Sure. Well, look what happened in 1999, Arizona, where I currently live, and this happened a year before I got here. But there was a big freaking mothership that was hovering over Phoenix, and they have over 10,000 witness accounts of this ship, right? I mean, how does it get any less real than that? But people, even though all of these people stood outside and looked at the ship above a huge city like Phoenix, there's some people that still don't give that any credit. I think you see, even with things in science, a lot of times people don't want to look at, like, look at the double slit experiment. We have an experiment in science that shows that when something is looked at by a human, when something is observed, it physically changes. That's a huge deal. That one thing changed a lot of people's lives. But then there's some people that are like, whatever. Okay. Because what does that mean? If they really get into that in their head, they start questioning life. They start questioning what reality is. They start questioning everything they've ever known. And that is a very scary place for a person to be, to realize that maybe they haven't had a grasp on this whole thing this whole time that they've been here, right? That maybe everything's a lie, right? So it's one of those things where people, you can't tear down the fabric of someone's reality just with one little thing, even if it's a giant spaceship hovering above a major city. Like there has to be something that affects you personally, something that comes into your life that you can't really walk away from. If your kid got abducted by an alien, for example, right? I don't know, something like that, then maybe that would be the point that might change somebody. But until it enters their personal reality, there's too much fear, and there's too much doubt, and there's a lot of uncertainty that people don't want to unnecessarily dive into until they know with their own two eyes that something is a real thing.
And it could be a protective measure that's designed very specifically to help us. I was reading this thing about depression, and this idea that depression is actually like it's a feature, not a bug. That this idea that like when some people go into a severe depression, the idea is that it's like preparing that person for like a really harsh reality, and it's basically like sending them way down where they think everything is totally fucked. And then that way it's like, well, everything is completely fucked anyway. So it's so that if things are kind of fucked, like they've been prepared for it. It's like preparing them for it. So it's almost like a defense mechanism. And yeah, I could see that happening. Okay, so one topic or one aspect that we wanted to get into here before we dive out of here is the false flag idea. Okay, and so I'm going to be playing a clip here in just a minute. And it's a clip from Stephen Greer. And this is going to be interesting, folks, because so I've been in the UFO thing here for a while now. Like I was really into UFOs in the 90s and stuff. in the 2000s completely forgot about UFOs and just put it off to the side, didn't trip on it at all. And then, like, I don't know what, 2017 or what, whenever this thing started kicking off again and this thing happened with To the Stars and all that, finally got rekindled back into UFOs. But one of the things that I've noticed, like in all my years of covering UFOs, or not covering UFOs like I've covered them, but like being into it, is there's these people that have been covering UFOs since the very beginning, like all these different players, Bob Lazar, Stephen Greer, all these different people that are involved in the UFO world, right? And so these people have been banging away since the very beginning, trying to prove this thing, trying to, convincingly prove this thing. And then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue yonder, you got this guy, Lou Elizondo, who has now been raised on a pedestal as he's this guy that is going to unravel this entire UFO thing, and he's finally going to make this UFO thing real. And I kind of wondered when I heard about all this, I'm like, wait a minute, what about all the UFO people that were banging away on this thing for 40 years? And then here's some guy that comes in out of nowhere to steal their magic moment. And for nobody is this more true than Stephen Greer. And Stephen Greer, people will say this guy is a charlatan, he's a snake oil salesman, he's a scammer, all these different things. And then other people are like, no, he's the real deal. He's like, he did the Disclosure Project. He's made all these different documentaries that are on like Netflix and Amazon Prime and all this stuff. And so people have different views of him. Honestly, I put him more in the charlatan. Here's what I put him in. I put him in a category where he genuinely cares about this UFO phenomenon. He's really into this UFO thing, but he's also kind of like a con man at the same time, and kind of making money at the same time, and kind of scamming people at the same. He's almost like
salesman.
Yeah, he's kind of like in this two-way thing. But anyway, he came out with a video this last week. It's like a 35-minute video where he goes on this long rant about how this is a straight-up false flag. And so what I did was I grabbed about like a little under a 2-minute segment of this video, and I'm going to play this, and he's going to kind of rant about his false flag idea. And then we've got a guy that's kind of opposite, that's going to kind of go in the opposite direction, because we're going to kind of think about this false flag idea, because it is a huge part of this whole thing. Because they're honestly, this is like a coin flip. I mean, there's like a 50-50 chance this is completely a scam, that an elaborate false flag thing. It could easily be that. So I'm going to...
It could, right? Imagine real quick that this whole thing is just to discredit those people.
Yeah.
Right? And they come out and they go, we did all the research. Nothing's there.
Yeah, this could be another one of those like A Boy Who Cried Wolf thing to finally seal the deal on that. No one will care about UFOs anymore after this when this thing fails.
Yep.
It could be that too. Okay, so I'm about to play this clip. This is going to be Dr. Stephen Greer, and he goes into the false flag narrative. So let me go ahead and grab this clip, and we'll check it out and see what's going on here. Okay, Stephen Greer. Here we go.
There's too much at stake. People are actually believing what they're saying. They think that they're doing this sincerely, and we now know for a fact that it is a big deception. And it is a dangerous deception, because in the process of this deceptive misinformation, disinformation campaign, it is opening the door to this alien threat narrative, but also hiding the fact that the technologies that have been reverse engineered from studying extraterrestrial vehicles that have been operational since the 50s could then be used in a false flag operation in the future, and everyone is going to be convinced, oh, well, we've had these officials tell us we don't have anything like this. This is why they're feeding these talking points to people like Senator Marco Rubio and others who do not know what the truth is about this, but the talking points have within them this very central lie. It is very important that you understand that the reason they keep saying we don't have anything that can move like that Tic Tac or move like those pyramid or triangular object over the destroyer, the reason they're saying that, even though it's an absolute provable lie, is because it preserves the element of surprise. It preserves the element of surprise of a false flag operation where those same technologies that are man-made and controlled by covert programs can be used in some kind of scary scenario. You can imagine what those might be, and make it look like it's the aliens did it, blame it on the aliens. So this has been going on already, as I said, because there's too much at stake.
Okay, so yeah, that was the clip of Stephen Greer, and basically what ultimately he's saying here is he's saying that what the government is doing with this deal is they're saying, look, we don't have this technology. So he's basically saying that they're going to release enough real information. So you put out some real information, some actual real information, but along with that, you put out your spin so you can control the narrative. So you give a little nugget of truth, but then you also have a spin around it. And so the idea is we don't have this technology. That's the key. This is not our technology. We don't have the capability to do what the Tic Tacs are doing or to do what the Go Fast little gimbal thing is doing or any of these other things, right? This is not us. It's either China, it's Russia, or it's some other foreign thing, or it's like aliens or interdimensional beings or whatever, but it's not us. We don't have this technology. And they really want to push that narrative so that when they do activate Project Bluebeam and they have a UFO that hovers over some city and like kills a bunch of people to create this like mass panic thing and be like, oh my God, it's a freaking invasion that's happening. An alien invasion has happened. This city has been destroyed. Thousands of people are dead. And here's this footage. You can see the triangle UFO. It's clear as effing day. It's shooting lasers at the ground and blowing things up. And so the idea is what Stephen Greer is saying, this is a false flag and this is all a big scam. So Skiva, you've checked this out. What do you think about this idea from Stephen Greer?
I think this could absolutely be feasible, right? Because if you want to make a believable story, you put out legit information that people can trace back to its source and say, no, this is true. So the whole thing must be true. Right. And then you can kind of, I don't think the government will ever tell us anything without the narrative of maintaining or further digging their control hooks into us. So I think this is very much this very well could be, and it's an unfortunate situation that the only people that will ever really know are going to be the people that are actually sitting around these tables talking about this and making these decisions.
Yeah, so after I watched it, I thought the same thing. Yeah, this could be a legitimate thing. Like the whole Project Bluebeam thing could be legitimate. Werner von Braun, said this on his deathbed, basically, that do not trust this alien invasion thing that they're going to do at some point. So this thing has been out there. Like people have known about this idea, and the idea is. You gotta have a boogeyman. You gotta have a boogeyman. It's for the industrial military complex. It's for Lockheed Martin. It's for Northrop Grumman. It's for Raytheon. It's for all these companies. All these companies, you gotta understand that on their board of directors is all ex-military. It's all ex-military all throughout their organizations, all right? It's like an inside deal. It's like the good old boys club. It's like you're a general in the military for a number of years, and then you get a cushy retirement and you get a position on the board of Raytheon or a position on the board of Northrop Grumman. And the idea is that these guys need a boogeyman because you start to run out of boogeymen. So we had Saddam Hussein was our boogeyman for a while, and then you have Al-Qaeda was our boogeyman, and now we're in this like weird era of like Cold War and like cyber espionage, and we're not actually having like legitimate wars anymore, kind of in the same sort of way. We need this big new boogeyman so that we can put all this so we have agreements to not militarize space. But guess what? You create an alien threat, that agreement's going to be revised. And now you can put weapons into space. This could be an elaborate ruse just to override that. I mean, so the reality is there. But at the same time, I can't help but think of Stephen Greer being involved in this field for 40 something years, and as hard as this guy has busted his ass. He might be a charlatan, he might be a scamster, and he probably is, based on a lot of the information I've heard about him. He really is a scamster and a charlatan, but at the same time, he's also busted his ass over all these years. He did a thing called, it was like the Disclosure Project, in Washington, D.C. a number of years ago. They brought all these freaking scientists in, all these military people. He had all these people testify. Like, he was trying to get this thing to happen. This guy was Lou Elizondo, like 20 years before Lou Elizondo was Lou Elizondo. This guy tried to do all this. And then 20 years later, all these other people are jumping into the spotlight. So is this just sour? Like, could this be sour grapes on the part of Stephen Greer, where he's just trying to throw a wet blanket on this thing because he's not at center stage?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be, but I feel like the main reason for all that, time is a huge thing. Like we talked about before, you can't just throw all of this at people all in one foul swoop. You have to get them warmed up to the idea. You have to make it so people can easily digest this without a huge backlash. So, I feel like it's unfortunate that these guys kind of came up in the era that they did before the internet was very popular, before or even a thing at all, right? So we're gonna maybe it's just that these guys were just ahead of their time, really, is more like it. But it could be that way too. Look, I don't put any of this past anybody. There's a lot of different reasons why this stuff could be happening, why this information could be getting out right now, whether it be to bathe the military in an exorbitant amount of money, or whether it be to discredit all of this so people get sick of it for a while and then don't look at it again for a little while, and then the government can kind of go about their practices in private, or whether it be for actual real disclosure. I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities here that make this all so fascinating.
Yeah, and so like I said, I have this other clip that I wanted to get to as well, where it kind of goes down the opposite road. And so there is a podcast or like a video series that is out there. The DC political newspaper, The Hill, has a show called Rising with Crystal and Cigar. And I don't really know too much about this, but what I've heard is it's basically you got like a hardcore Republican dude, Cigar, and then you've got this like hardcore Democrat, Crystal, but they agree to talk about various topics in a responsible sort of way. They don't get down each other's throats. They try to examine things. It's a really popular show that has done a great job of it. Whatever, blah blah blah. But anyway, this guy Cigar and Jetty, I'm probably murdering his name, but he is like me. He's somebody that is fascinated by this UFO topic, but kind of keeps it secret. But now that this whole thing is blown up, he's started to talk about it and stuff because it's in the news. So he talks about this idea of false flag. So I have a little clip that's about a 2-minute clip. Now this has been sliced up a little bit. But basically this is Cigar and Jetty talking about how this is not a false flag, and how he believes that it's not a false flag. So let me go to this clip here, and we'll see what's going on. So let me grab this.
Element of surprise.
There's something that's been observed by both humans and by our technology, capable of flying in a manner unknown to human science. That's about as extraordinary as it gets. To me, the only question is, what is it? But increasingly, I have observed a backlash to what I'll call the mainstreaming of UFOs. Why now? Why is the Pentagon coming forward? Is this some sort of psyop? Isn't this all just a ploy to raise money for the Space Force? I understand that impulse, given that our government has already lied us into war on faulty intelligence. But it's important to really interrogate that assumption, because I believe right now, resistance to the idea of UFOs remains on mistrust of the institution, which is in possession of the wide body of evidence surrounding what could be one of the greatest mysteries of our civilization. First, I'll state that it is absolutely not impossible this is an all elaborate psyop for more military funding, but that I believe it's extraordinarily unlikely. The Pentagon had absolutely zero interest in letting any of this come out. They pushed back against Harry Reid. They tried to bury Lou Elizondo. They never wanted any of this. For it to be a psyop, the people in charge have to be in control. And by all accounts of the principal players involved, they did their damnedest to make sure all of this remained a secret from the public forever. Since then, what has happened instead is not disclosure, but resignation to overwhelming fascination from the public, from people like myself.
Well, look, I tend to agree with you. I think the debunkers who are claiming this is a ploy to increase Pentagon funding probably haven't looked at Pentagon funding over the years. When's the last time their budget actually was cut and not increased?
I think that's the funny part, too.
They ask for things and get it.
Because you and I live here in D.C. and we know how to appropriate. I'm like, guys, they don't need to make shit up, all right? Like, they can do whatever they like. They can ask whatever they want, and they're probably still going to get it. Anyway, another discussion for another time. Looking forward to what's on your radar next. That's next.
Okay, yeah. So basically, so what he says there is, and what they both were kind of saying, is that no, this is not a ploy to get trillions more dollars into the military budgets, into the Pentagon's budgets. They don't need to do that. Like they get unlimited amounts of funds. They don't need to create some elaborate ass ploy talking about alien. Like who wants to like sink the stock market and the economy and all this shit just to try to like increase your budget? This is not a false flag. These guys are in Washington, D.C. They're like, look, they get plenty of money. They don't need to fake this. They can come up with some other kind of elaborate thing. What do you say to that?
I say that's, man, you know, this is so hard because really there's so many compelling arguments to go either direction. I would think that it is more likely that it is a ploy for these people to gain more control and more money than it is not. But I want to believe that it is not a ploy and that we're actually going to get some real information here. So this is, man, this is really, really tough. Of course, they don't have to do these things, but why not? I mean, you know, there's examples I want to use that I just shouldn't bring up on the show, but I really do feel like, man, it could just go either way. It really could.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, man. This is This is a really weird deal. Whatever is going on is weird. It's unusual. The timing is unusual. It seems like there is some kind of agenda that must be conformed to. Like this is happening. This is not an accident. I cannot believe that this is just a random accident of circumstance. Like this one guy was assigned to this group and he just happened to decide to retire and they're, you know, I can't believe that. I believe that something is unraveling, but what is the strategy here? Okay, so we're almost.
So what about this way? What if you look at it like, so we had this major pandemic that just blew up, right? To this day, we still don't have a finger to point at anyone of why this virus got unleashed, right? We're getting to a point where society is turning back to normal and people are really going to start probably digging into this. What if this is a way to deter people from our current situation and have them, you know, and just a flag going, no, look over here, you know, forget all about that stuff. This is huge. This is even bigger. You know, I don't know, man. It's just, you know, I don't want to think like that, but it's very easy to. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Come take me, UFOs. Get me off this rock.
It's crazy. But, so I just have a couple of other little things here. We're almost done with like every little thing we wanted to touch on. But one little thing I did want to touch on is, so let's switch to the positive. We're going to switch to the positive for a brief second, and then we're going to go hardcore negative at the very end. So we're switching to the positive for the second, and we're saying, what are the chances that we might be able to benefit from some of this technology? Like let's say that these are some kind of advanced creatures of some type, maybe interdimensional, maybe they're from our planet, but they live here, they live in the oceans. For all this time, we've been sharing this planet with another intelligent species, and we just weren't aware of it. And maybe there's enough global warming now that they're like, hey, you're starting to F up our planet, so they're starting to making themselves known. So that could possibly be happening. But the bottom line is, could we possibly get some of their technology? Could there be some gigantic benefits? Imagine this happening in your lifetime. Like, how unlikely is this scenario? Freaking, we discover aliens. They share all this technology with us. We cure cancer. We cure Alzheimer's. Like, think of the things that they could be able to help us with that would be so unbelievably trivial. Like, I was in this one Reddit thread where they were discussing the 60 Minutes thing. And this one guy was like, well, I'm just hoping maybe we can get maybe they can help us with some medical technology, because this guy had 2 young children that had like this incredibly rare disease where they're going to basically be living the rest of their lives in wheelchairs. And he's like hoping that, maybe, just maybe, we get some great information, some scientific breakthroughs from these beings that let us advance our technology incredibly. And so, Skiva, is there any kind of things that you can ponder here in terms of like, I mean, what kind of technology could we glean from them, and would they be willing to share their technology with us?
So I think that there is I would like to think that there would be like a 95% chance that we could absolutely benefit from anything that we learn from these guys, right? We watched an unclassified video of this object descending 80,000 feet in under a second, crashing down through the water without losing any acceleration, with no jets, with no wings, with no windows, right? We've watched this incredible technology that has been put out to the public in these videos that the pilots of these jets have said they've seen every day. Like, this isn't even a new thing. They're just releasing some of these videos, but they're like, there's been years where every day we see these things while we're flying around and doing these different tests in our vehicles. That type of technology, if we can get our hands in it, if there has ever been anything recovered, if there's anything that comes to be where we are in communication and this stuff is shared, there's no way that this doesn't advance our society, right? Look to the stars, right? Their job, like I keep saying, is to collect this stuff, to reverse engineer it, and to insert it into our society, right? Whether it be computing power, whether it be, how we use fuel or batteries or whatever the case may be. I don't see a scenario, if this ends up all being 100% what we think it is, or maybe what we hope it is, right, that we don't benefit greatly even. That would be absolutely incredible. Maybe there's other governments that are going to start use this technology, and this is one of the reasons why they have to disclose this stuff now, because this technology is going to come out and just, change the world. Who knows? God. But I think that the chances of us not gaining anything out of here are very minuscule.
Yeah, but what could we gain? I mean, like I've heard this one guy was talking about immortality, like the possibility of immortality. There's people that are looking into ways to basically just turn off aging altogether, and to reverse aging. And these beings, if they are possibly millions of years ahead of us, they could have like solved that issue for them in terms of like they don't age or they don't deteriorate or they live for, 50,000 years before they die or something like that. I mean, we just don't know what possibilities are there. But imagine that we were to all of a sudden come into contact with this unbelievably advanced race that then 20 years later, nobody's freaking dying. We have free energy. Like we're able to go to other star systems. Like an incredible explosion of technology all of a sudden. Like how freaking crazy would that be? I can tell you this, the VR side of me is like, hell yeah, baby. We're going to have some amazing holograms. Our field of view is going to be.
I'm like, I want their VR.
Yeah.
Just give me your VR. You can take off and go back home after that, but I want your VR technology.
They're probably way beyond VR. Like the whole Neuralink thing, like going right into your brain. Like they might be able to do Neuralink type shit that requires no surgery whatsoever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I think vehicle propulsion. I think we think we're so intelligent, but medically we're in the dark ages, right? We give people all these pills to mask symptoms, but we don't take care of what's actually wrong with them, right? I think the medical benefit here could be absolutely next level. Maybe we don't get immortality, but we are able to get rid of a lot of these diseases that are killing off our people. But then again, what would that mean for our planet and the overpopulation problem? What if now people aren't dying as often, and now our population doubles? Now global warming is a double. You know what I mean? All of this stuff.
But they can go to Saturn Prime and live there. There's prime real estate available. It's been opened up recently. Well, sure. They just get on the next mothership. It'll take 20,000 people at a time. Little do they know they're going to be slaves for the rest of their lives on Tiberian 12. No. But but it could.
There's a lot of batteries, even batteries. Give us awesome batteries, right? I mean, there's a lot of things. We're stuck in a lot of different computer advancement because of heating and cooling and what it takes to move this information and this stuff quickly without overheating and blowing things up. There's just so many different things that we could gain from these guys, whether it be quantum computing and whatever. I mean, the sky is truly the limit here. And I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Teleportation. Imagine if they just gave us teleportation. So like you can go to New York and just bam, you're in New York. Bam, you're in Paris. Like that would be incredible. But but also I'm thinking though, imagine if we took our technology back to the year, to BC. We take our current technology to BC and we give all of our technology to people that are living like 100 years before, Christ and all that. And like, what does that do, man? How does it unravel? There could be like lots of unfortunate side effects. I mean, well, you talked about overpopulation, although they would probably have a plan for that. They probably have a plan for like climate. They probably have devices that could capture all our carbon. Lots of things like that. Okay, but here's an argument that I will make. So we are incredibly advanced. Again, I'm going to go back to chimpanzees. Are we curing rare diseases for chimps? Are we like prolonging chimps' life? Are we giving them special VR goggles? No. So why would they do any of that for us?
Well, I would like to think that the intelligence that it would take to be able to create the things that they've created and to be able to, the ships that we've seen now, I would like to think that level of intelligence also comes with the intelligence of knowing that good is the best way to go, right? To go and help and to pass along these things and maybe stop a global catastrophe from happening. There's a lot of different reasons. Like, maybe these things have created us. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Prometheus, right? But there's this scene where the alien drinks this thing, his DNA gets released into the planet, and then people come, right? So if we are their quote unquote children, right? Then why wouldn't they want to come help us and stop things from stop us from wiping each other out? Or
what about the Prime Directive? The prime directive.
The
You
prime-
don't
like,
interfere. You don't interfere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, but who made that directive up? I mean, I don't, that's a human thing. I don't know. I feel like if we made let's pretend that humans, we're on Mars and we can go even further and we go to some planet and we populate it with whatever creatures. I can't imagine that we would just let all of that stuff fall apart. Maybe we would intervene if things went wrong, or maybe that society would made some kind of turn that we're like, yeah, we have to step in, otherwise this whole thing's going to go to shit, right? I don't know. There's just so many possibilities. It's mind blowing.
Okay, well, let's go to the dark side real quick before we get out of here. Playing devil's advocate, let's ponder like an absolute worst case scenario here. Like, what are some of the possibilities? Like, if you think about it going real dark, I mean, basically all you have to do is go to Netflix and any of all these different little episodes of like different shows where the aliens come and like now humans are fighting aliens and they're scavenging and it's like The Walking Dead. I mean, could that scenario? I mean, that scenario's within the realm, right?
It absolutely is, and I'll tell you why. I see humanity as like a beehive, right? And we're not mature enough that if someone pokes our beehive, we're not just going to go out there and just sting uncontrollably without any second thought. I feel like if something comes down here and we don't understand it, we're going to start shooting nukes at it. We're going to start getting jet fighters all up in its business. I mean, things could very well go wrong. There might be good intention, but when things go down, maybe we ruin it, right? So, I mean, it's very possible that, and it would be so dumb because look at the technology they have. Obviously, they could come down here and probably give us a little flick and everyone's dead, right? I don't know. But maybe they have run out of resources on their planet or existence. Maybe they need new biological capsules to survive, and they need to take our avatars away from us and use them to survive. I don't know. There's just a lot of possibilities. They're endless. I could probably sit here for hours and just go down like a list of different sci-fi plots of why aliens have come here to mess stuff up, right? Yeah. So it was so weird to me if some advanced civilization though was like, yeah, we can fly over there in the blink of an eye. We can defy all physics of this planet, and we're just going to go blow everyone up and leave. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There has to be something else. But if we want to go dark, this could absolutely be an extinction level event. I mean, I don't know, it could go in any direction, from extreme to extreme and every point in between. And keeping this not a 20-hour podcast, I don't think we can really dive into all those
I think
things.
We're going to explore every single one of them. We will be here for as long as it takes. I agree with you. I guess for me, like, if I was to think of the worst possible scenario, like, death is not the worst possible scenario. Death can be quick, and a quick death is not necessarily bad. What I see as the worst possible scenario is like literally being enslaved, to be like their worker bees for some type of like construction project or something. It's in the similar way like the pyramids were built and stuff like that. I mean, could you imagine like a year from now, the entire population of humanity is just like cracking rocks and working, and we're just working all day long?
I am a very, very big believer in karma, right? And in the year 2021, we are still supporting slavery. We have, all of the resources it takes to create the phones and the amount of phones that we have out there and the precious metals that it takes to create the processors. There are actual slaves to this day going down there and gathering these resources. If we have not gotten to the point yet where we don't understand that stuff is incorrect, maybe karma is going to come back and get us. Maybe we will be immortalized and then enslaved forever.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because one thing I've thought of too is like, like I'll be in my backyard or something, right? And like the sprinklers come on and I see all these little ants, you know, and they're like running around in a panic, you know, because all this water's coming out from the sprinkler head, and they never freaking anticipated that or planned for that. And like their entire little civilization is basically being destroyed right in front of my eyes, right? And it's just a byproduct. It's completely accidental. This higher level civilization just happens to be watering their lawn. You know, it has nothing to do with the ants whatsoever, yet a huge portion of their entire civilization just collapsed right before their very eyes. And there's a part of me that thinks, we're no different than these goddamn ants. There's going to be something that floods us or a similar sort of equivalent. And I kind of go back, there's that one Star Wars prequel where Qui-Gon Jinn says, you know, there's always a bigger fish. You know, there's always a bigger fish. There's always something beyond you. There's always something bigger than you. You know, we walk along and we accidentally step on a bug and we're like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on that bug, but who cares? It's just a little freaking bug. Like, aren't we going to get stepped on one day? Like, doesn't that have to happen for everything to just like, everything happens to everything and we're all, you know, part of this great circle?
Man, that's very, very possible. You know, I think, you know, I really like to think that, like I said before, that the intelligence that it takes for these things to happen, it wouldn't necessarily go like that, but it very well could, right? Because we don't know the intention of any of this stuff. We don't know why it's happening. We don't know what they need. We don't know what it is. We don't know if it's, like I said, we could be in a simulation and these could be, you know, some of the super users coming down to see what's going on, to check the code, to make sure that, you know,
could you imagine that they land and they're like, we realize that you guys have discovered the simulation. Unfortunately, we have to turn it off. Sorry, guys. Now that you've discovered it, we're about to shut it down. We're here to flip the switch. Goodbye, everybody.
Lots of possibilities, man. They're pretty much endless.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we covered pretty much most of the stuff that we wanted to get into here. I mean, it's a wild discussion. There's so many possibilities. It's crazy. I mean, we're obviously hoping that something actually happens here. And the thing is, we might be getting all excited and getting our feathers all ruffled for no apparent reason. But God, I hope something happens because I want to see Neil deGrasse Tyson. I want to see all these smug-ass scientific mofos that think this is completely impossible. And I want to see the expression on their face when it's proven that this shit is real and it's deal with it, mofo. Deal with it. Because the skeptics have had the advantage for like 75 years. You know, they've had the advantage, and I want to see the tables turned, and I want to see these skeptics squirm, and I want to see them so uncomfortable, and to have to deal with like, oh, I'm sorry this breaks your worldview. I'm so sorry for you that this disturbs your worldview. I'm so sorry that your physics are inaccurate. You're going to have to throw the whole thing away and start over from scratch. But oh my God, I can't wait for that to happen, because the smugness of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, whenever they're explored, like they laugh at this as being the silliest, dumbest thing ever. And what sweet, sweet revenge this would be if this shit just makes them eat copious amounts of crow live on television.
I hope that's the case. I hope we're back here next month.
It would be so
with
great.
All kinds of fun information that we can pass out to people. I'd love to see the same thing. It's weird to me that someone that believes in math would think that an unlimited amount of space could yield no other life but ours. That to me discredits a lot of people's opinions to me. You know what I mean? I want to come back on here and be like, yo, so we got all the information. Let's deal it out. You know, that could possibly be a month away.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how scientific people are like the least open-minded people out there. It's like they've learned too much which has shut their mind down. And so it's like it's a real problem for people in science where they get so dialed in on a very specific subject that it's impossible for them to think out of the box, because they've dialed in. It's kind of like when the police have an idea of somebody they think that committed the crime, and they're just laser focused on this person committed the crime. Let's figure out exactly what they did, and they will not take any other information and consider it at all. They're closed off to any other possibility. And honestly, a lot of these scientific people, these physicists and astrophysicists, they go down this road, man. They can't handle it. They cannot handle the possibility that they don't know everything, that they don't understand everything. And to see them get their comeuppance, oh my God, it would be so satisfying. I can't wait. I really hope this happens.
I agree 100%.
Oh my goodness. All right, guys. Well, basically, that's going to pretty much do it for episode 9 of Dark Frequencies. And yeah, it was fun to come back and do this. Disclosure in progress. We wish we had Roots to join us as well. That would be awesome. But unfortunately, he was unable to do that. But yeah, I think we'll probably have some more Dark Frequencies episodes. I mean, obviously, once all this information comes out, we'll find out, what did we actually get. Maybe all hell will break loose and we'll be reporting live from an empty Costco. All the shelves are completely empty, and we'll be talking about heading off into the woods and, how many guns do you have? How much water do you have? All that type of thing. It'll be crazy. So look forward to possibly future episodes coming in the not too distant future. Skiba, any last words real quick?
No, I just want to thank everyone that came to join us live. We got some great people that are in here in chat taking part in the discussion. So hopefully we're back next month with all kinds of new alien technology to bring you.
Yeah, hopefully we can show you the live bodies and everything. Alrighty, guys, that'll do it for this episode of Dark Frequencies. And be sure to tell a friend about our channel in case there's some people out there that are interested in this type of stuff. We got some back episodes that I think are still really quite fascinating, and we could get into some other future topics as well and kind of rekindle. Maybe this is the revival of Dark Frequencies, because we kind of got lost there for many months, and it looked like maybe it was a completely dead thing. And it took the discovery, it took the unveiling of UFOs to get us back into the mix. And so that's all it took. It's just UFOs being confirmed, and now we're back. So, the powers that be did what they had to do, right?
Absolutely, man.
Okay.
Well, we will see you guys next time. Appreciate you coming. And like I said, I want to come back next month and just have some awesome news. Whatever that may be, who knows? We'll find out. Hopefully.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you then. Everybody have a good one. Have a good weekend, and take it easy, and we'll see you. And, of course, later, bruh.